Hey, so hello and welcome to this driver halftime report. We're going to call this as the F1 is still in this break, but we're still here. We're still going to bring you some content, and what we're going to do today is we're going to talk through each driver on the grid, kind of give them mark for how the season's gone so far, what we think they can improve on, and yeah, overall how we think they've done. So obviously I'll be joined by Aritra to do this.
Yeah, hi, and yeah, it's great to be back. And yeah, we've been making some progress over the last two videos, so yeah, it's got a lot of motivation.
Yeah, absolutely, really good. But speaking of progress, that kind of starts us off with Williams there, and there has been some of it, to be honest. There has been some positive sparks in the last few races, but they still find themselves 19th and 20th in the driver standings, and we'll start off with the guy who's 20th, who I feel is very harshly 20th, George Russell.
Yeah, I mean, George Russell being 20th is probably it's deceiving to the fans who haven't been watching every race. And I mean, it's really unfair on the guy that he has 0 points. I mean, when you mentioned that Williams are 19th and 20th in the drivers' standings, I think it's going to remain that way for the rest of the season. But yeah, George Russell being 20th is something that I can't. I mean, it takes a lot for him to come into Formula One in his debut season and then just smoke Robert Kubica out of the way. And Kubica is an experienced driver; he might have an injury, but yeah, he's still a hugely more experienced driver than George, and he's just smoked him out of the park. And ironically, Kubica is in 19th, and George Russell is 20th because on that one day which mattered, Kubica came out on top.
Yeah. I mean, George Russell, I think, has won every single qualifying battle, all but two of the races. One where George himself had a problem, had to make a late pit stop, put him behind Kubica, and then there was that crazy race in Germany where Kubica managed to get ahead and he managed to put himself. Well, he crossed the line in 12th, but because of what happened to the Alphas, both Alphas getting 20-second penalties, he ended up in 10th. So the one of the very few occasions Russell got beaten in any session was the one his teammate got points, which must be absolutely gutting for him. But if we're going to kick it off with Russell, I mean, I've got to give Russell a solid A. I mean, I don't think there's a lot more for me. I don't think there's a lot more he could have done in that car. Considering it's his debut season as well, and he was one of my top performing drivers on the grid this season.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree with everything you said there. And I think I would give George Russell an 8 as well, because he has been doing everything he can in that Williams. And I think everybody watching this season realizes that there is not much that you can do in that Williams car. So, yeah, I mean, he has been consistent, and he has been consistent in beating his teammate as well. So I think that is all that he can do, and he deserves an 8 for me as well. Yeah, glad to agree on the first one.
Yeah. Sorry. Can we just agree? How are we rating? Yeah. So then, his teammate Robert Kubica though, out of 10. It's been a very poor. I mean, he's hamstrung by that car. He really is. But when you're being outshone that much by a debutant in the sport, that's not a good look. And consistently being lapped by your teammate as well, it's going to be super. I mean, I'm going to say 2 out of 10 for Robert. I think he's got himself a point, and fair play. That's a big achievement for the Williams team, but it's been a shocking season for him, really.
Yeah, I mean, we came into this season with so much anticipation about what Robert is going to do, coming back into the sport after a long time. And I think even the most diehard Kubica fan has to be disappointed by the way the season has panned out for Robert. The only bright spot I can mention is probably the point in Germany. And yeah, when it comes to ratings, I would probably give him a 3 because of the point. But then, yeah, I think 3 is being generous. It's only because I'm generous I'm giving him a 3. But yeah, I think that sums up his season pretty much, because being lapped in the same car or being one lap behind compared to your teammate consistently in multiple races is not the sign of a very good driver, is it? I mean, we know he's a great driver, but just going by the season, people who haven't watched Formula One back when Kubica was a boss, they have to be thinking, what is he doing?
Yeah, because this is the driver which could have won a championship. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a guy who potentially could have won a championship. In 2008, he was right up there, and he took that win in Canada. And it kind of inexplicably BMW Sauber decided to take the decision to stop developing the car to focus on winning the championship in 2009, which and we saw BMW Sauber's fortunes kind of went on from that season. So to give up a chance of winning the championship, that really cost Robert, and that was a kind of really really strange decision. So things are rather differently. This could have been a world champion we're talking about here, but alas, that's how life works. And yeah, he's down here in 19th in the championship this season. Yeah.
Yeah, he is 19th, but then he probably should be 20th. I mean, I just want to mention a conversation that I was having with Pushpal, who has been a guest on this channel. Last year, I remember talking to him, and he told me that, Robert Kubica is a driver who, according to me, is at Kimi Raikkonen's level, and it is just sad that he's sitting out. And I was just texting him today. I said, "What now?"
Yeah, I mean, Robert, in his day, in his first spell in F1, I think you're absolutely right. He was one of the best drivers on the grid, certainly. And if things had turned out differently, I'm sure he would have got himself into a top team. But yeah, we all know the story there. So we'll move on to 18th in the championship, which is Antonio Giovinazzi, who is another driver that I would say is really being outshone by his teammate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can kind of understand him being beaten by his teammate because he's up against a world champion and one of the most, consistent drivers of this era. Maybe a bit of an overstatement, but Kimi Raikkonen is one hell of a teammate to compete with. You have to be honest, and he has shown glimpses of what he can do, but he just hasn't been consistent enough on race days. Like on Saturdays, he's been good. It's okay, 8-4 in qualifying, I guess, right now, so it's fine. But 31-1 when it comes to points on a Sunday, that I think you have to. I mean, Alpha have to rethink their idea of giving the seat to Giovinazzi for next year if they want to give it to him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's had some, as you say, he's had some good qualifiers, a couple of Q3s recently, and he's one of the drivers also that Ferrari have a young driver program, and they have quite a big say in who gets the Alpha seat. So I'm sure they're going to be glancing an eye, seeing if there's anybody up and coming on the horizon. We've talked about it. In our silly season review, so we'll go there. But they'll be looking at Mick Schumacher. They'll be looking at who else in their academy to potentially step up. So Giovinazzi needs some big performances towards this end of the season if he's going to retain his seat for the following year. I'm going to go. He's had some good qualifiers that have impressed me, so I'll bump him up to a 4 out of 10. But it's very much in need of improvement.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you when you say that he's in need of improvement. He's one of those drivers under pressure, but I'd give him a 5 on 10. Because I feel he's been unlucky and it just hasn't worked out for him. We know what he can do. He has shown glimpses. He has been good on qualifyings. Again, I'm repeating myself, but yeah, because we don't really have much substance on Giovinazzi when we talk about him. So yeah, I think a 5 on 10 is fair because he's being beaten by a great teammate, and he's managing to hold his ground on Saturdays. So yeah, kind of average, not really spectacular, nothing spectacular, but yeah, average. Yeah, 5 on 10 is good for me.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you do have to say is Kimi Raikkonen is a brilliant driver, so it's always going to be tough comparing Giovinazzi to him. But that's the business, and at the end of the day, two drivers have exactly the same car, and the first thing you have to do is beat your teammates. So yes, it's always an easy comparison to make. How are you doing compared to someone else in the same machinery? And when it's Giovinazzi, you've been outscored by 31 points to 1, then that never looks good, no matter who your teammate is.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to the guy who's 17th in the championship and according to me in probably the deepest trouble out of the entire grid, Romain Grosjean has scored 8 points so far this season. Could have been more, could have been less, but he has scored 8 points, and I have been disappointed. I don't really know what to say because what I can see is he has retired in 6 of the 12 races so far.
Yeah,
only 50% finishing record is not good at all. And yeah, he had the same as last season, didn't he? A typical slow start. Took until the 5th round to get points on the board. Couple of 10th places. Solid 7th in Germany. With the thing with Germany is there was just such a crazy race. You kind of, or when you're rating all these drivers, you almost do have to separate Germany and just say that was an absolute freak.
Yeah.
And the overall kind of how their season's been going. And yeah, Roman is one of them who I'm sure is in deep trouble. And I think
Haas are not going to want to keep together the Magnussen-Grosjean partnership, and simply by looking at the standings, Magnussen is the man you're going to keep on, if any. So Roman is certainly, Kevin safe is safe by no means at all, but Roman certainly is in deep trouble, and I would be very surprised if he was on the grid next year. And yeah, he's probably another one where I'd say another 4 out of 10 for Roman.
Okay, good. You're being, I think, a little harsh in the way you're marking these drivers. If I be honest,
I'm taking no prisoners here.
Yeah. No, we like it that way. So so Roman for me has been, I don't know, because 6 retirements out of the 12. I mean, we have to mention that not all of the 6 retirements were due to his faults. Yeah. So you have to say that he was somewhat unlucky in some of those retirements as well, owing it to the team somewhat. But yeah, I'll give him a 5 on 10 because I kind of expected him to be under Magnussen this season, because the way he was overpowered by Magnussen last season, and the trend continued in the beginning part of the season. But he has produced some performances which were of note, and he is, I mean, he's alive, but he is neck deep in water. So yeah. I'll give him a 5 because considering the amount of pressure that he's under, and ever since the beginning of the last season, the amount of pressure that he has been under, starting the season with that much amount of pressure in you, and having 6 retirements out of 12, I think he hasn't done himself any harm, but what he needed to do was up his reputation, which he hasn't been able to do as well. So yeah, 5 sounds fair to me.
I think so. I mean, when you're in a team like Haas, and they're having so many struggles this season, and their drivers are running different specs of the car. They don't seem to know what setup works for them. They've had to go all the way back to Australia to try and get a setup. So, when you've got a team like that and you have a good weekend and you do have pace, you need to convert that. And Roman's not historically been a good driver at when you've got a good car, getting it home for solid points. You look at some of the 10 places of the season, they could have been higher, but he tangled with Magnussen, and I mean, the classic example is last season crashing under the safety car in Azerbaijan. Another race, Haas had pace and he completely inexplicably put it in the wall. Roman's that kind of driver. He's not. When you're a team like that and you're not going to be on the pace every weekend, he's not the safe pair of hands you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's all about Roman, because we don't really need to say much apart from what we've already said, because we've already said enough, I feel. So yeah, moving on to the man who's 16th in the championship, probably unfairly as well, Sergio Perez. Does he deserve to be 16th on the championship table then?
No, I mean, he's a quality driver, and look at some of the drivers ahead of him. It's a tough one for Sergio. Obviously, Racing Point aren't in the best of positions at the moment. The fallout from the lack of money at Force India last year is still very much affecting them. It's not a brilliant car, but he had a great start to the season. 3 point scoring finishes in the first 4 races, and then none since. He has had some ropey races, which is to be expected. But I've always seen Sergio as a very solid driver, and he's getting a lot from that car, and he doesn't have a great deal to work with. So I mean, I'm solid. I'm sure he would say himself that he could improve, but I'm going to give him a solid 5 out of 10. Not amazing, but I mean, could be better. But
so I'll give him a 6 on 10, and I'll tell you why. Because he has managed to hold his own throughout the season, and had he not crashed out in Germany, he could have well been in the top 10 in the championship by now.
Yeah, and of course we'll come on to him later, but that is why he's behind his teammate in the championship by a long way. Lance Stroll picking up that fourth in Germany, so it's it's one of those races, wasn't it, with Germany, where every single one in the midfield who wasn't on the podium or wasn't high up in the points was absolutely kicking themselves. Because on any other race weekend, a fifth or sixth place would have been good, but when you saw that actually when the podium was there, it is quite disappointing. And he's one of them that was in that situation, that he came away with Germany with nothing. And he is famously known as the podium burglar. He's always there, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He did an interview the other day, I think this week, saying I've never had a car in my career that can get on the podium, and I've got 8 podiums. So,
That's quite a statement if you think about it.
I mean, he's got a high opinion of himself, but you know what? To be fair, that is a hell of an achievement, and he does back it up.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to the man who is currently 15th in the championship, but come the next few races, I'm sure he'll move up from that 15th pretty quickly and make it to the top 6 if everything goes according to plan.
Well, you'd hope
Alexander
so.
Albon, the man who's moving to Red Bull, the man who has moved miles in a few months. So yeah, so currently 15th in the championship. What have you thought of his season? Because I think we've discussed Albon. So yeah, how do you rate his season?
Albon, yeah, debutant in F1, and we've got to remember he came into this, a little bit unfancied. He was kind of seen as the, we don't really have anyone, so you'll do choice for Red Bull to bring him into our. So came third in the championship, a bit of a distant, towards the end of the season, Russell and Norris did kind of drop him and became a two-way fight for the championship. So. To be fair to him, I think he's had a very good start. I think he showed a lot of promise from day one, and he's always been there. He's that kind of driver. He's always been there or thereabouts in the points. Had some good point scoring finishes. Got 5 of them so far, and a lot of 11th, 12th places. Very very solid qualifier as well. I think he's had. For consider his Formula One career is 12 races old. Very very solid start. I'll give him a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. I think and finally we can agree on one of the ratings. I'll give him a 7 as well, because I think he's been good, and see, he's impressed both Honda and Marco enough for them to bring him to Red Bull. I mean, albeit the stakes were pretty low, but then yeah, you cannot do nothing and get selected for Red Bull, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talked about our thoughts on the swap. I think they made the right choice, and at the end of the day, he wouldn't have got that Red Bull move if they didn't see anything in him. So solid stuff for him. So moving on then, number 14 in the position, we've got Nico Hülkenberg. Only the 17 points in the season. I've got as I for one was expecting a lot more from him and the Renault team this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't really been disappointed by the way Nico Hülkenberg has been racing, but the car just hasn't been there. I mean, their car is certainly worse off than it was last year. Anybody who's watched the races will get this. That the car is not as good as it was last year, which is why both the drivers haven't been able to get the most out of their talent, so to say, because I feel that they are the most talented pairing on the grid. But yeah, he has been solid, as he always is. And see, if you don't have a car underneath you, you can't really do much, and that is evident from George Russell's performance and ratings. So yeah, I think it's kind of the same with Nico Hülkenberg as well. But there have been opportunities which he hasn't utilized. In particular, Germany, where he was running P2 at one point and then ended up DNFing, which could have really propelled him up the standings as well. But yeah, he has been unlucky, made a few mistakes here and there, but for me, he'll have a 6 on 10. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, as you say there, another chance gone begging for that podium for Hülkenberg, isn't it?
I do feel for the guy. It's some of it is a little unfair, isn't it? Because it's not like this is a guy who's in a top 3 team which should be getting on the podium, and in this modern era of F1, I don't think it's ever been as difficult for a midfield team, but maybe even in the history of F1, I don't think it's ever been as difficult for a midfield team to get a podium. The hybrid era has been one. It's been completely dominated by one team, and then as it's gone on, it's become 3 teams that have just completely moved away from everyone else. But yeah, I would say he's had a little bit unlucky, especially in Bahrain as well. That kind of double DNF for Renault towards the end of the race. But I don't know. I think he would admit himself that his levels have kind of dropped slightly. I'm only going to go for a 5. I'm going to say.
All right. Yeah, I mean, a 5 sounds fair as well, because when you notice the statistics, I kind of expected the battle between him and Daniel Ricciardo to be more competitive than it is. I'll be honest.
I thought it was going to be, one of the big kind of rivalries on the grid. Ricciardo coming in, big presence, we're kind of taking over the number 1 spot of the team, and I think Hulkenberg's going to really fight back, and because he's a very good driver in his own right. So I was expecting a lot of kind of fireworks from this rivalry, and I don't know, we've not really had it, have we? I mean.
No, I mean, as I mentioned, I think it's more to do with the car than the drivers themselves.
Yeah, that is true, and I'm sure with a better car that would be the case. But the golfing class in the recent, I think especially Ricciardo had a bit of a dodgy start at Renault, but as the races have kind of gone on, he's the one that's a bit more at home in the car, and for the new driver in the team, I'm sure that's something Hulkenberg's not too happy with in himself.
Yeah, and there are speculations about his future as well, which we have discussed. And so that is, I think, it for part 1 of the driver ratings, and we will be back with part 2 soon.